Indiana Jones might have been one of the most obvious flops coming in Hollywood, not only because it had over a $300 million budget, but even a year ago, when people found out about time travel and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, they knew he was going to be replaced. So much so that the director had to come out and inform people, gaslight them, Indy won't be replaced. Trolls will be trolls. One more time, no one is taking over or replacing Indy, donning his hat, nor being erased through some contrivance, but trolls will be trolls. And no one wants to be a troll, an ugly creature that lives under a bridge. That's why it's weird that he insulted Kathleen Kennedy in that way. Because she says it's entirely possible for Phoebe Waller-Bridge to replace Indiana Jones. No one is taking over or replacing Indy, except Phoebe Waller-Bridge. If she wasn't box office money repellent, anyway. At this point, if it's entirely possible, you might actually be clinically insane. Because it did $60 million over the weekend, dragging up by its fingertips to $82 million through the 4th of July. So we've had a massive holiday weekend, where they're counting almost a week in the figures, and it still can't break through Mission Impossible's starting numbers, which it needs when your budget is around $295 million, or some people are saying 330, 350, maybe more if you count all the advertising, and more films on the way. It's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. My favourite thing though is some of the weird cope in the box office articles, where even though they're admitting that Disney messed this up, they don't call out the actual problems with the movie, like the tone, the values, the writing, the destruction of the characters. No, instead, we get the biggest problem with Indiana Jones is that they didn't cast it up and make it appealing for the under 40 diverse crowd. You know, like Paramount did with Top Gun Maverick. What? Go on, Indy, talk about TikTok or something, that'll make the movie successful. Remember, when he's in the ancient tomb, bring up the systemic oppression that can only be relieved by student loan forgiveness. Deadline, I think you're onto a winner. But then we get the most delusional take of any Indiana article, where it goes, the Dial of Destiny was conceived for hardcore Indy fans. You know, those hardcore Indy fans that wanted their beloved character to be crushed. I want to see him sad, lonely, weak and depressed. If there's one thing that hardcore fans want, it's their favourite character to be obliterated, just so it can be taken over by an insufferable Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Can she insult him a bit more, please? I don't think the hardcore fans have been pandered to enough. Yeah, that's what dudes who are over 50 really want. The reason why this movie failed is just because it didn't pander to 18 to 24 moviegoers enough. People who were under 35 that didn't like the movie. But all those dudes over 50, they were the ones giving it 5 stars, I'm sure. Hey, hardcore fans, did you like the bit where your favourite character tried to top himself at the end? And it's especially weird that, if anything, Top Gun did pander to Top Gun fans, which is why people like the movie. And if that truly was the problem, then you're gonna have to explain why it flopped in China as well. And when I say flopped, pretty amazing. Indiana Jones earned just $2.4 million in China. It played on 25,000 screens per day, but earned less than $1 million. That is $36 a screen. And that's the strange story about it, trying to spin Indiana Jones like only people over 50 know what it is. Plot twist, I'm not over 50. If anything, given the current low quality of entertainment, you'd expect people to be going back and watching older stuff more. But there are some IPs that you expect everyone to have seen. It's like saying that Star Wars is only made for people over 50. And yet, that's the story we're going with. The tentpole appealed heavily to older adults who have become more and more discerning about what they watch on the big screen. Is it really just older adults that have become more discerning over what they watch on the big screen versus streaming? Or is it just people in general are catching on to the low quality of entertainment that Hollywood is making? Because that's the reality of the situation that they're desperately trying to avoid, that if we pump out crap for long enough, people catch on, and that's the expected outcome, rather than I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and call it crap afterwards. The issue is that now people don't rush to the cinema on the opening day, but they'll hang about a bit, wait for people's opinions, and then go afterwards if they think it's going to be worthwhile. And when I say opinions, I obviously don't mean those on Rotten Tomatoes. As despite how high that number is when there aren't many of them, they're clearly not the ones that people are paying attention to. So it's weird then when there's a disaster and people start looking in the wrong places. So little of it revolves around what you've done to the characters that the fans don't actually want. No, I'm surprised it failed because this movie didn't have any behind-the-scenes calamity melodrama like Rogue One did. Well, apart from Kathleen Kennedy, seemingly getting called a troll by the director, or at least wrapped up in his definition. But you want drama, you want cope, I can give you cope. How about Indiana Jones is the #1 movie in the world? This is from the official Indiana Jones Twitter account. Even put it in their video, and it has several quotes, like it's thrilling and a rip-roaring adventure. I'm surprised they didn't use the BBC's. I'm not sure how many fans want to see Indiana Jones as a broken, helpless old man who cowers in the corner while his patronizing goddaughter takes the lead, but that's what we're given, and it's as bleak as it sounds. Yeah, it's a little long, but it's from the BBC. If that can't sell tickets, nothing can. The #1 movie in the world. But some have claimed that the marketing for this film has been amazing. We have no idea why it could only sell $36 worth of tickets a screen in some areas. Maybe it's just because all those over 50-year-olds are too picky about their entertainment now. I mean, yes, Indiana Jones is a broken, helpless old man who cowers in a corner while his patronizing goddaughter takes the lead. But it's not all bad, because Harrison Ford claimed that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character teaches Indiana Jones how to love and laugh and live again. And she did that by punching him in the face. I'm not even joking. I wish I was. Indiana Jones is so pathetic, broken, weak, and miserable that he's just like, just let me die! That he wants to be left in the ancient past so he can die in peace just to get away from her. So she knocks him out and forcefully brings him back to the present, and for some reason, that teaches him to love, laugh, and live again. I don't know, Harrison, those two things are so contradictory. You're coming across like Nick Fury in Secret Invasion, where I'm pretty sure they've written him as a dementia patient.
Tell me something I don't know about the Skrulls that fled. They're here. Who's here?
And this is what I mean by contradictory marketing, where at the same time you've got the director going, we can't hide from where we are in our lives. He means his age. But I wanted to follow Harrison's lead. It's more than just his bones that might ache, it's his soul might ache. That his optimism and sense of fitting into the world might have evaporated. He's old, battered, and breaks easily. He can't do anything and he's depressed. And all of it gets so much to where the end of the movie he just wants to top himself. He was taught to love, laugh, and live again. I think he's talking about a different movie. But the strangest part in, he's talking about Harrison Ford's age, and says he wants to follow Harrison's own lead, but then describes age as something horrific that nobody wants. And that's not Harrison's opinion at all, who said, I love being older. Specifically saying, I don't look back and wish I was that guy again, because I don't. I love being older. It was great to be young, but I could be dead. That is the exact opposite of the attitude of Indiana Jones in the movie, who just would have preferred it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character didn't teach him anything, she didn't bring him round, she just forcefully prevented it. Took him back to the present and introduced him to his ex-wife. If anything, that's gonna make him worse. So you'll have to forgive me if James Mangold saying he didn't want to be the one that killed Harrison Ford's character. I guess he just wanted to take him up to the brink, destroy the character's soul, but just never take that final step. There's no attraction in getting thousands of people into the theater and hitting them in the head with a hammer. I'm sorry, are we still talking about Indiana Jones here? This is beginning to sound like you've watched Squid Game one too many times. But then, when he says I made Logan, and there's lots of anxiety about being turned into the icon executioner, when it comes to Indiana Jones, I think that's a title that you can safely say you've achieved. The box office alone is proof of that, let alone the content of the movie. I don't know, maybe you could just frame this tweet as compensation instead. #1 movie in the world. I mean, we've even got the Hollywood Reporter basically joining the team of there is only 3 movies. And at this point, saying that Steven Spielberg was involved in every aspect of the Dial of Destiny is basically just trying to drag him down with you. Look, we know it bombed, but if we can pull enough people in, maybe it won't kill any of our careers specifically. Or maybe we can just do an impressive title and hope that nobody reads the article. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny dominated the UK box office. I mean, I live in the UK. That means I'm impressed. Dominated. It's such strong language. Basically 70 million people in the country. This thing must have made fortunes. Crushing at the box office. The sequel managed to bring in $9 million. It's not even pounds. It's £7 million. We converted it to dollars just to try and make the numbers sound bigger. But don't worry though, this is crushing at the box office. I mean, it's the 5th biggest opening weekend. 5th biggest opening, that's definitely crushed the entire box office. Imagine the historic movies it's had to go against. I mean, you've got like The Avengers Endgame, Titanic, Avatar, and Avatar of 2023. Not as impressive when you finish the sentence, really, is it? It's the 5th biggest opening weekend of a year where nearly everything has flopped. As pundits and fans alike debate the movie's performance, one thing is clear. People across the pond love Indiana Jones, apparently. Even in their own shill article, they can't bring themselves to say it wholeheartedly. It's not like Indiana Jones didn't win the box office in the United States either. No, you didn't. Losing hundreds of millions of dollars isn't winning the box office. I mean, at least other places use the word solid to describe a failure that they don't want to admit is a failure. But comicbook.com's strategy seems to be to hope that nobody reads what you're actually saying, which for a website is a brave strategy. Now, the weird thing is, Mangold, since the film's release, hasn't stopped talking about it. If it was me, I'd just want to crawl into a dark cave and basically become Gollum for the next couple of thousand years. I wouldn't want to be showing my face in public, especially when you've described Indiana Jones as, well, it's not about him dying, it's about him coming to terms with this period of his life and this period of the world, about whether Indiana Jones has any relevance. And you've got Harrison Ford himself just going, I love being old. I don't know, Mangold, this seems to be your own personal hang-up of your own age. Have you considered buying a motorbike and banging someone younger than you are? That's what most people do with a crisis. I'd say midlife crisis, but 120 years might be a bit hopeful. But there is a really bizarre theme that Mangold brings up, which is common throughout Hollywood at the moment, and it's just the complete wholesale throwing out of morality. This is why Phoebe Waller-Bridge says things that don't make any sense. At one point, she's arguing with Indiana Jones about whether he's a moral person. You're just doing good deeds for the thrill, as if that takes away the good deeds. Talks about theft as if that's the free market, and lectures him about taking something from a tomb even though she stole it from him and was going to flog it on the black market herself. To anyone with morals, Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character in the movie is insufferable, but not to Hollywood. He says there was a challenge for Steven Spielberg on The Crystal Skull and me for this one. How do you move forward in new decades where the world is no longer seen in such clear demarcations of black and white and good and evil? I think if you talk to the average person on the street, good and evil definitely exist. In fact, good and evil have to exist in order for your movie to actually be good. It's not much use having a good guy if there is no evil guy. Superman would be a very boring character if everything was just great all the time. But Hollywood in recent times has definitely pushed for this. Oh, there's no good and evil, just everything's shades of grey. It's not their fault they're committing atrocities, it's just the environment made them this way. I mean, you can see it in Secret Invasion right now with the Skrulls. Or in The Acolyte, where he said the best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. It depends what side you're standing on. It's like, I'm sorry mate, but if you think that the Empire aren't evil, you're evil. They were literally written and designed to be the evil bad guys. But in Hollywood, oh no, it's just everything's shades of grey. There is no evil as such. If there is no evil, there is no good. But I can't help but thinking it's just desperately trying to cope with a guilty conscience. Although The Acolyte certainly shares in Indiana Jones's contrived marketing by going, there is no bad guys. But The Acolyte is told from the perspective of the bad guys that don't exist. I can't help wondering, if there's no good or evil, does that mean there's no good and bad ideas? Is the destruction of a hero just objectively bad writing? And not for a story point, not to give him something to recover afterwards, not to give him a tragedy to work through. No, just to make him emotional, to make him a delusioned hero that would be part of history with his son and wife gone, and he'd picture himself staying in the place he loves best. I mean, that's one way to describe it. The other one would be, I'm useless over there, the world's moved on without me, I should probably just stay here and die. Trying to portray that ending as him just loving history is gaslighting at this point. But what can I say? You've done it before. Even if it did lead you to implying Kathleen Kennedy lived under a bridge. Although after what she's done to Star Wars, Disney's accountant probably wishes she did. Look, love, you're gonna have to stop. Otherwise, I'm gonna run out of negative numbers. I've had to buy extra red pens just for this. It's especially hard to believe you don't have it out for characters. When he's describing the fate of Shia LaBeouf's character, and said basically killing him off was a way for Indy to look back in a lifetime of regret and loss. And said we could have established Indiana Jones as healing, setting up shop, remarrying. And I guess there was a way we could have done it, but I just didn't imagine it. There was no way for Mangold to imagine Indiana Jones happy. Harrison Ford claims Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character teaches Indiana Jones how to love, laugh, and live again. No way he could imagine him happy. No, instead he had to own what happened to him. The amount of loneliness and disappointment in himself he's carrying about in his inability to navigate that between them. What's that got to do with him? His inability to navigate it between them. What, so now he's responsible for her feelings? It's a very bizarre way to think about a situation that can basically be described as their son died and she was a cow and left. Very much on the ex-wife in this scenario. And then when he's describing traveling back in time to have a plane fly 20 foot above some ships, get shot down by ballista bolts and arrows, hanging out the side, or breaking open the windscreen to randomly spray machine gun fire at passing ships for no reason when you could just fly up in the air, you are in a plane. The director goes, well, You know, it's no more wild than ghouls flying out of a box and melting people's heads. Yes, but one makes sense within the lore of the universe, and the other doesn't. I don't even have a problem with time travel, as long as the rules of your time travel make sense. It's the stupidity of the humans involved I've got an issue with. Why are we randomly shooting at ships instead of just flying upwards out of range of their very basic weaponry that definitely wasn't designed to fight aircraft that hadn't been invented yet? If you'd established that dragons existed, shooting down a plane would have actually made more sense. Although maybe you had other things on your mind when your cast are asking you to rewrite scenes because they were just too, offensive and a bit problematic. So much for this movie did not have any behind-the-scenes calamity melodrama. Now you see, I was so jazzed, I was impressed by a lot of things, but I had thoughts and input about my character in particular. See, my character had a particular way of exiting the film, but I initially found it a little too offensive and problematic. He should have fired you. You're an actor, dear, it's not real. If you're taking offense at the imaginary, it really is just a you problem. But I was like, we really don't need to say these words or have it done this way, and this is something I'm uncomfortable with. If you're unwilling to do the job, then you shouldn't be hired for the job. Just like if you're a writer in Hollywood and you're refusing to write because you'd rather stand on a street corner somewhere, you shouldn't be writing in Hollywood. And interestingly, it never says what was offensive, never says what was problematic, but I think we can guess when it says, I don't think we need to say these words or have it done this way. And you watch the film and you're like, these mid-century Germans are remarkably polite for mid-century Germans. I had to guess the script was simply making them as the characters would act, and instead they had to remove it because somebody's fifis got hurt on set. You can't make a good movie if the characters can't act how the characters should. It doesn't matter whether it's offensive to you, it's imaginary. And the entire point of saying something like that would be that you're offended by it. That would be that you don't like it, with the intention of you not liking the characters. And by removing that, you actually make the characters look more reasonable, which is a bizarre thing to do, given who they're meant to be in the film. So I don't even know why you'd want to do that, let alone why you did. No, Indiana Jones was a box office flop, and it deserved to be. There was an absolute plethora of things wrong with it, and then, when the director keeps talking out and more cast talk out, everything kind of gets explained why. It was one of those movies where the devil was in the detail. It was like, this is an annoying line, this is an annoying characteristic of this character, and when it all combined together, it led to something that you absolutely can't recommend. And it's interesting that people already expected that and never went in the first place. And the really interesting thing is if people are becoming more discerning about what they watch on the big screen, then Hollywood's in trouble because they've always been a bit like the gaming industry. They rely on everyone getting hyped for the next big thing. And if you get into the habit of not being interested in something, not being hyped until you find out whether it's good or not, then I don't know how they can continue, especially with the budgets of 300 million plus that they have now. Because the people in Hollywood simply don't have the talent to make something that a load of people are going to go and see. There's a few that can, but these days, you can probably count them on two hands. So what can I say? Indiana Jones deserved every penny it didn't get at the cinema. And Hollywood deserve a discerning audience that will wait to judge a film on its merits before they actually pay money to go and see it. Because a world where you actually have to earn the money from your customers is a world where you get quality products. Something that nowadays in Hollywood is few and far between. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.